So in this episode, I want to look at that temptation that we have sometimes to just do things for an easy life. And it often comes up around the word no. And it will happen when somebody comes to us and they'll ask us to do something. Would you do that thing, or would you do this thing? And every fibre of us is screaming, no, God, no, I don't want to be doing that thing. And yet in the moment of it, as they're stood there with their expectant little face, hoping that you'll do that thing that you're screaming out no, that you just don't want to do, the actual saying of the no in that moment is really difficult. And so even though you're screaming out no with every fibre of your very being, what you'll say instead is yes. Yeah, I'll do that. Now, the problem with saying yes when really you mean no is that it's very, very easy to end up with a whole heap of stuff on your to-do list that you don't even want to do. And it's very hard to have fun in life when you're spending all of your time doing things that you don't want to do and missing out on all the things that you would love to do, that you find fun, but don't have time to do because you've said yes to everybody else. And so it's really hard to have a fun life if the only way that you can answer those sorts of questions is yes, sure, when really what you know you want to say is no. And the biggest problem with that temptation to say yes in the moment is that while it deals with the discomfort of having to say no to somebody, and it often is an uncomfortable thing, isn't it, to say no to somebody who would like you to do something, saying yes does kind of give you that easy life in that moment, because you don't have to face that discomfort then. You can just say yes, and then the problem is solved. Except that, like many things that feel uncomfortable in the moment, the problem is only solved momentarily. And in fact, what you do is you store up a much bigger problem for the version of you that's coming a little bit further down the line. You see, the problem with saying yes when you mean no is that while it's easier in that moment, guess what you've got to do after that? You've got to go and live the yes, not just say it. And so now what happens is the thing that you said that you do, that you really don't want to do, that you were screaming out no, you then have to spend a big portion of your life doing it. And it could be anything from a relatively small task to taking on an entire project, even taking on an entire relationship that you'd have rather have said no to, and now you've said yes to, because it solved the problem of the discomfort in the moment. But of course, now you've got to go and live the yes. And so it's a lot easier, even though it's hard, to say no in the moment, simply because when you say no, you have that moment of discomfort in the moment, but then you never have to do the thing that you don't want to do. That's kind of the end of it. You said no, you might get a bit of pushback, that's possible, but you never have to do that thing that you don't want to say yes to because you don't want to do. And yet when you say yes just to ease that discomfort, you've now got that to do. That now becomes part of your life. And there's probably a pile of those things which mean that you never actually get to say yes to yourself. And it leads me to a nice little phrase, which is Worth remembering in these situations. Easy choice, hard life. And in that proverb of easy choice, hard life, it encapsulates this struggle that we have when really we want to say no and it feels uncomfortable. Because we could make the easy choice in that moment. The easy choice is just to say yes. That's the one that solves all the discomfort in that moment. Easy choice, difficult life. Because then the thing that you said yes to becomes your life. And it's not just a discomfort in that moment. This might be an entire project that you've committed to day after day after day. And so the opposite of that is hard choice, easy life. So if you really want an easy life, then what we need to do is to take that more difficult choice of saying no despite the discomfort. And in many ways too, this struggle of how to say no so that you don't have to give yourself a hard life later on acts almost like a metaphor, like a great example of that struggle that we often feel in discomfort. How am I going to solve this discomfort in the moment? And often the way that we do it is to make things harder for ourselves a little bit further down the line. We might want to go to that party, for instance, because we want to make new friends, but the discomfort comes just beforehand, and so we stay in. We soothe ourselves in the moment, but we ensure that we don't get what we truly want further down the line. And when we say yes, when we mean no, we're doing exactly the same there as well. So that little proverb, that little short reminder, easy choice, hard life, will hopefully help to remind you that what seems like the easy choice in this moment is actually setting up a life that's much, much harder. And so that even though saying no in the moment is difficult and it is uncomfortable, the life that follows it is a lot easier because you don't have all that stuff to do. So easy choice, difficult life. And if you find this useful, please pass it on. You can subscribe to the podcast for free wherever you get them. You can watch them on YouTube. There is a sliceoftherapy.com. And you could work with me directly. I'm Alun Parry at the Liverpool Psychotherapy practice, which is at liverpoolpsychotherapy.co.uk. So thanks for listening, and I'll see you again tomorrow.